Week 8 brings us our third top 5 showdown of the season, and this time it's number 5 Georgia and top-ranked Texas. And here to help us break down one of the biggest games of the weekend, we've got Jordan Hill from Dogs 24/7 and Chip Brown from Horns 24/7. And guys, this is not a matchup we get very frequently, so let's go ahead and tell you a little bit more about it. It is the 6th meeting all time between these two squads. Georgia last won in 1983. Another not great stat for the Dogs. They've lost 7 straight road games against top 10 teams, while the home team Longhorns, well, they're off to their first 6-0 start since 2009, which is a year I know Longhorn fans know all too well. They played for a national title that year. So Georgia is still, I guess we could say, trying to put it all together. We've seen it in bits and pieces throughout the season, just not in one complete game, while Texas, I'll be frank, they look nearly unstoppable at this point. So what is each team carrying both emotionally and physically headed into this game? And Jordan, let's start with the Dogs.
Well, I think you kind of hit on it, Emily. This team is still looking to play its first complete game, which is something that Kirby Smart said on Monday. And I can assure you they did not do that against Mississippi State, a 41-31 win where Georgia gave up 21 points in the second half. Very uncharacteristic of a Bulldogs defense that has looked pretty mortal this year. So I think they see this as an opportunity going to Texas, trying to prove how good they are. It's sort of a weird role reversal as far as Georgia goes. They are an underdog for the first time since the season opener in 2021 against Clemson. But Georgia has made sure to not get caught up in that. Kirby Smart said it's all about taking care of business. And I do think that it's a good setup for a Georgia team where they've been favorites over and over. They don't get focused on that just because Texas is the favorite. I think they haven't gotten caught up in that. I think this team understands that it still hasn't played its best ball, that they've got areas that they have clearly improved on since the season started, some things to clean up on defense. But I think they see a real opportunity going to Texas. They know they're going to have to play 60 hard minutes, but I think they feel good about their chances.
Yeah, for Texas, it's Quinn Ewers looking a little sharper than he did against Oklahoma. Ewers was off, coming back after missing the last 2.5 games. His footwork was off. He was missing throws he normally makes. I'm told that Texas felt like the Oklahoma game was a good game for him to come back in because Oklahoma's offense wasn't particularly strong. So Ewers could, get into a octane atmosphere and kind of work through it. We'll see how that plays out. He did say on Monday that his abdominal strain, if he was suffering any lingering effects from that abdominal strain, and he said it felt a little different, but nothing too drastic, which can be code for, it was bothering me. So it does sound like wide receiver Isaiah Bond, who suffered an ankle injury in the Oklahoma game and did not return, will be available. I asked Steve Sarkisian on the SEC call today how he's progressing, and he said, he had a good practice today. So that might be part of the reason the line seems to be moving in favor of Texas.
Speaking of quarterbacks, both of them still firmly in the Heisman race. Both are actually tied for the 4th best odds along with a lot of other players, but still up there, still relevant. And when you talk about Heisman moments, definitely an opportunity for that on Saturday. So what does each need to do, not just to get back in the Heisman race, but to take their play up a notch and win this football game? Chip, let's start with Quinn.
Yeah, Quinn Ewers needs to look like the guy who went to Alabama last year and went 24 of 38 for 346 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, and then went to Michigan against an elite defense earlier this year when Michigan was, then ranked number 10, and he goes 24 of 36 passing for 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Was oblivious to the chaotic atmosphere in the big house, was converting 1 third down after another, 8 of 10 on third down in the first half as Texas took a decisive 24-3 lead in the first half. That's the Quinn Ewers that Texas needs to see on Saturday night against Georgia.
And I think for Carson Beck, it's just getting a little bit more help from the guys around him. You look at last week against Mississippi State, 459 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Now, one was deflected at the line, intercepted. But I go back to the Alabama game. He played really well. He had 3 interceptions, but one of them was a situation where one of the receivers didn't get the check at the line, ran the wrong route. Carson tries to throw a screen, and, well, there's not a receiver there, so it made for an easy interception. And then the pick he threw at the end of the game, kind of a one-on-one ball to Colby Young, and Colby didn't really make a good effort to get the ball, leads to an interception that ends the game. Carson's done a really good job. He's got a few more interceptions than we're used to seeing at this point in the year. 5 interceptions, but honestly, not all of them have been on him. He's done a really good job. I think he did a good job last week when Georgia went really pass happy. I think he had 48 attempts in that Mississippi State game, and he was grinning ear to ear after that. He said, yeah, bring it on. I want to throw the ball a lot. I don't know if they're going to throw quite that much. I do think Georgia wants to strike more of a balance, but I've been impressed with how Carson has played lately, especially throwing some deep balls. He connected with Arian Smith, Dylan Bell. I think that he's going to have to hit some of those if Georgia's going to have a chance on Saturday night.
As coaches like to say, each interception has a story, so you can't necessarily just look at that statistic. Let's talk about these defenses. Texas has the #1 scoring defense right now, which is a spot I know that Georgia knows all too well in recent years, but right now the Dogs, they're at 20th nationally. So Jordan, how do they bounce back from Saturday and shut down this Longhorns offense?
Well, I think it starts with the Georgia secondary, which was surprisingly ripped apart by freshman quarterback and Michael Van Buren. Van Buren really struggled in the first half for Mississippi State and then got it going in the second, and you come out of it feeling really concerned, and I wrote about this on Sunday. We've got questions about the Georgia defense for the first time in, I don't know, maybe Kirby Smart's first season in Athens. The secondary has really struggled. They've replaced 3 guys who are in the NFL right now, and you can tell that there's been a bit of a drop-off. And the corners have really struggled in 50-50 balls, being able to make a play on the ball. To me, if Georgia's going to have a chance in this game, it boils down to how the secondary plays. Can they slow down guys like Isaiah Bond? Can they at least get hands on balls, especially if Quinn Ewers throws some deep shots in this game? The secondary is a weakness for the first time in quite a while for Georgia. If they struggle on Saturday, it could be a long night for the Bulldogs.
Yeah, the Texas defense has played great up to this point. Last year, they gave up 2.9 yards per carry on the ground with Outland Trophy winner T'Vondre Sweat and first-round draft pick Byron Murphy, the 2 best interior defensive linemen in college football, according to Pro Football Focus last year. They're only giving up 3 yards per carry this year, and they're the #2 pass defense. Here's the thing. They've played a bunch of anemic offenses. The highest ranked scoring offense they've faced is Mississippi State at 71st. So that tells you that this is a step up in weight class for the Texas defense. Carson Beck is easily the top quarterback that they will have faced. The Georgia offense easily the best offense that Texas defense has faced. So let's see how good this Texas defense really is stepping up in weight class against Georgia.
Fantastic point there. You definitely have to look at the offenses they faced when judging the defense. We'll find out a lot on Saturday. And we got a little too excited. We wanted to see what this game looked like, so we simulated it 20 times on EA College Football 25. You're taking a look at some of the video there. And Georgia won it 13 of those times. So for each team, starting with the Dogs, who the video game makers surely love here, Jordan, what's the biggest key to pulling out a win in the real football game Saturday?
Well, we talked about the secondary, but I would stay on the defense and look at the defensive line. Georgia has struggled pressuring quarterbacks lately. No sacks in 2 of the last 3 games, and one of those 3 games was that Alabama game where they did not get Jalen Milroe on the ground 1 time. A stark contrast from that SEC title game where they sacked Jalen Milroe 4 times. I think they have to get after Quinn Ewers. Even if they don't bring him down, they've got to affect his game. And the guy I'm watching in that regard is Mykel Williams. defensive end who a lot of people see as a first-round pick, maybe a top 10 pick. He's been dealing with an ankle injury going back to the Clemson game in the season opener, and they've really limited his snaps the last few weeks. I think they understand they've got to let him loose on Saturday. I think it starts with defensive line and then looking on the offensive side of the ball. I want to see how much they can get Trevor Etienne involved. Etienne has had his moments. I thought his best game 2 weeks ago against Auburn. And what is really impressive with Trevor, the run game's been hit and miss, but they've done a very good job of getting him involved in the passing game. If he gets the ball in his hands, he's able to make guys miss. He strikes me as someone that has to have a big game in order for Georgia to have a chance on Saturday night.
The Texas defense has been outstanding getting pressure on the quarterback. The last 2 games, both SEC opponents, Texas has 11 sacks and 22 tackles for loss just in those last 2 games. And one of the key moves against Oklahoma was inserting sophomore Lianga Lafau in at middle linebacker, replacing Anthony Hill Jr., allowing Anthony Hill Jr. to move over to the weak side to rush the passer. All Anthony Hill Jr. did against Oklahoma was produce 11 tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a forced fumble. So if Texas can get pressure on Carson Beck and force him into some bad decisions, that should give Quinn Ewers and the most explosive offense in college football right now, 51 explosive pass plays of 15 yards or more. Lots of opportunity to try to put points on the board.
Love it. Looking forward to this game. Looking forward to learning a lot about these teams and really a lot of the SEC this weekend. Thank you guys both so much for breaking this down for us. If you want to learn everything you need to know about either of these teams, you should check out their team sites. Keep it locked into Dogs 24/7 for all things Georgia football and Horns 24/7 for everything you need to know about Texas.